Well, good morning again. I'm Mark Sandelman. I think I've had a chance to shake hands with almost all of you, all 500 of you. Oh, well, the advertising worked, right? So, Pastor Aelhoffen, would you just come up and give us a greeting from St. Paul Lutheran? This is my home congregation, or my congregation. I knew we had this big room, and I thought it would be, yes.
Can't hear you.
You can't? Can you? They can hear me up here. Did you get that, Mike? Are we okay now? Better, right? Okay. I just needed it up closer to my mouth. All right, I was born in St. Peter. That was a joke, I was kidding. Again, this is my congregation. We have a heart for the community. I knew my Wells Owls, organization of Wisconsin Lutheran seniors, would be willing to help me on this. And this is our newest pastor, Pastor Scott Aelhoffen. I know many of you have been here for funerals, but maybe you haven't met Pastor Aelhoffen, so I'll let him introduce himself.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Good morning.
Good morning.
It is such a thrill to see so many people here today. When Mark first called the church office and said, I'm thinking about doing a seminar, do you think anyone will come? Apparently the answer is yes. We're on behalf of our members and our leaders, we're so thrilled to have you here this morning. Like he said, we're glad to be able to welcome you. The restrooms are down below. If you need anything, look for someone who's wearing a shirt like I have or looks like they're helping out here. We'll do our best to accommodate. I think we have a feeding of the 5,000 situation here. And I'm not so good at multiplying loaves and fishes, but we will find a way to welcome everyone. I just want to let you know we're glad that you're here, and God bless your seminar.
Very good. Thank you, Pastor Aelhoffen. We affectionately refer to him as Pastor O, so if you see him out there and you call him Pastor O, that he actually kind of prefers that.
I did move to the one city that might be able to pronounce my German name.
Right. All right, let's go back in time a little bit. About 10 or 11 years ago, I got talking with some people that were at that workshop 11 years ago at the New Ulm Community Center. I had an attorney, I had a CPA, I had Inspector Mullinoff, I had a few other people, I had a banker from Citizens Bank, Cindy Lewis, now retired. Most of them are retired out of there now. We have 3 of them that go to this church, and they're just about retired. The workshop a year ago, or 11 years ago, was a panel, and it was, hey, here's what we're seeing, and then you could ask some questions. So on this workshop, the format is this. The bankers are the banking community is banded together. Yes, they're competitors, but now on this one topic, they are collaborators and cooperators with each other to help stop fraud and scams that are clearly proliferating. So let me phrase this question very carefully. How many of you know of somebody who's been scammed? Okay? That may be you, it may not be, but you know of somebody. That was a lot of hands that went up. For those of you in the front, that was most of the room. So about 6 weeks ago, I'm onboarding a new client. I do insurance, and we got talking about who's her beneficiary going to be, and then she mentions that her mother and father got scammed out of $40,000. And I said, oh, I should dust off that workshop again on scams and frauds. She goes, Mark, please do it. I'll be she's not here. I'll be a guest speaker. The toll that it had on my sister and me, she almost said, gave us PTSD. Trauma. It gave her trauma. She used that word. They barely could recover from their parents getting scammed. They weren't worried about an inheritance. Mom and dad didn't have a lot of money. That's what they were worried about. So for all of you here, I am going to encourage you, maybe some of our panelists will too, get with your adult children and lay out a game plan to make sure you don't get scammed. All right, I approached my bank, Bank Midwest, and she goes, oh, there's this group. Go down to Alliance Bank and talk to Renee Thorson. So I did. Here's what I want to tell you. Every banker's face lit up when they heard about this workshop. Everybody in law enforcement lit up when they heard about this workshop. They desperately wanted to do this. They want to do it more. I've had several people as I was walking around say, we need to do these kind of workshops more than we're doing because this is a big topic. All right. This is going to be filmed for New Ulm Cable Access TV. You'll have a chance to watch it again. Renee, here's how we'll do this first half. I'm going to let you introduce the bankers here. You guys share some opening thoughts and comments. I'll be out here. Oh, my banker, Sarah. I'll be out here to answer or to get the mic to people who have questions so that they can hear you. All right, very good. Renee Thorson, Alliance Bank.
Okay, can everybody hear me? I'm sorry, I lost my voice over the weekend, so this is the best it gets. Are we good?
All right, so we
The mic's down there.
this is New Cat working out bugs here. I don't think they're gonna stand. I know you want them to. But for the microphones, we need to have them sitting.
Okay, try again. Better? Okay. Again, I'm sorry. My voice is kind of weak. So, again, I'm Renee Thorson from Alliance Bank. Together here we do have Sarah Mertz and Stacy Wolter from Bank Midwest, Crystal Altman from Citizens Bank, Jean Schrader and Melissa Brolick from Franson Bank, Chris Jensen from South Point Financial, Rebecca Hulke and Carrie Steele from United Prairie Bank. So I just wanted to share a quote that I came across a while ago to start things out. The quote reads, "The punishment for fraud and recovery of stolen funds is so rare, prevention is the only viable course of action." So before you, we have the 6 financial institutions here in town. Like Mark said, while we are all in direct competition with each other, we know this is an important subject when it comes to fraud. This is something we want to come together on for the good of our community as a whole. You might be my client, but you also might be a client down the road as well. And the more we can raise awareness about fraud, the more we can educate people regarding the kind of fraud we are seeing, what to look for, and what the red flags are, means prevention is going to be our best defense against fraud. Unfortunately, fraud is an ongoing battle. It's not something that's going to go away. We need to do our best to help those in our community by raising awareness and educate. Fraud is affecting all ages, from teenagers to seniors. The scary truth of fraud is not if you will fall victim, it is more of when are you going to fall victim of fraud. Hopefully what you hear today will raise awareness and hopefully make you less likely to be victim of fraud. So like Mark said, hoping to maybe do this as an open forum. So if anybody wants to start with a story or a question to start things off, otherwise we will start it here with what we have prepared.
Any questions? Any questions right off the top? Okay, oh, there it is. Let me work over there. Phil Donahue. Somebody had their hand here.
I see the commercials on TV about the fraud where they can take your house and get loans against it, and I cannot understand how can they actually do that?
So the question was, he's been seeing ads about defrauding people out of their homes. I think it's through title theft, right? Yeah. Has that ever come up with you guys? Any of you?
Anybody with loans? I haven't, not aware of
in the title.
We have not seen that.
Excuse me?
I don't think anybody.
You have not seen it? Okay.
Yeah, not in our area.
Okay. Mine was an email that I got from a stranger, of course, thanking me for my payment of $299.99, which of course I did not do, and I have not opened it. Do I put it in junk,
Delete.
block, or just get rid of it?
Interesting. So she's got an email on her phone thanking her for $299 payment, which she didn't pay. Geek Squad, Norton Antivirus, McAfee. Who are some of the other ones you guys have seen?
PayPal,
PayPal.
Amazon,
yeah.
UPS
Yeah.
Verizon.
packages.
yeah, USPS.
Yep. UPS.
Okay, so let's do this. I think people are kind of here to hear from you guys, and then they'll have more questions. So go ahead and kind of share some things you're seeing.
Go ahead. So those type of emails, delete them. If you, I mean, especially if you're getting something from Amazon and you don't have an Amazon account or PayPal. Basically what they're doing is they want you to click on there and verify the information. Then you're giving them your information. So, anybody else wants to?
And with that, there's pop-ups that happen, so don't click on those. Go and find the actual phone number, because what they're going to do is they're spoofing phone numbers, making it look like it's a credit card financial institution that's giving you a call, when in all actuality it's not. And they're always going to have some urgency behind it. They're not going to allow you the time to stop and think. They're going to keep you moving and don't tell anybody. And so with that being said, just, slow it down, and you can always hang up, and they're going to keep calling. Just do not answer, and just kind of take your time to collect your thoughts. Talk to a trusted family member, friend, financial advisor, pastor. Just because a lot of these times they create that urgency, which then makes you do things that you typically would not do.
And I'm going to add to, when you do respond to these emails or phone calls or text, it's allowing the scammers to know that they have a live victim on the other end. So if we just ignore, delete, that's the best way on any of those. Just to not, sometimes we want to answer them and toy with them, but I advise you not to do that, because you're going to get more and more, so.
Yeah, it's, once you get on that list, the scammers tend to circulate that amongst themselves, and you don't ever get off that list.
And if you do click on something, disconnect your computer right away, because that is then what cancels them having access to your computer. And so you want to make that disconnect as quick as possible.
I would just delete it.
Yeah, I wouldn't even open the email, to be honest. A lot of times.
If you
they'll have
didn't
spam
order
stuff in there.
anything or do anything, just delete it. They just want your information. They want to get a hold of you, because if you respond to that, they're gonna have something of yours where they can reach out to you some more.
So the question that she was trying to drill down on was, should she delete it? Should she spam it? Should she junk folder it? Just delete, delete, delete.
Any of the above, really, just not to open it as the.
I've started, in the last couple of years, I've started in my Gmail account to start blocking and report them for phishing. It takes about 30 seconds, but Gmail needs to know that these emails are circulating out there, and when they see me flag it with a report phishing, then if they see that a lot, now they can do something. I think I have a question over here.
I had an experience of being scammed, and it's very embarrassing, but I'm going to share it with you because I ignored a lot of the red flags that you're supposed to not pay attention to. First of all, I'm a professional. I'm a CPA. This makes it even worse, but I work with QuickBooks, and I got a call from India. Okay, there's number one red flag I ignored. Number two, I had received some notices on my screen that it said that I I hadn't been backing up. My last backup had not been recent enough. So this person was contacting me about that. So this person's scam happened to coincide with something that I was already seeing that was actually a real warning on my screen. Well, my next mistake was I gave the person permission to take control of my screen. Don't ever do that. So they said, well, you have almost run out of disk space and you haven't been closing it, you've been doing this and that. And so we need to charge you X number of dollars. I'm not going to tell you how much because it's embarrassingly high. And I'm going to be your personal representative with dealing with this problem from now on. So from now on, don't call QuickBooks, call me. And I'm even going to put this little thing on your screen or on your desktop that's going to pop up every time you open QuickBooks, and it's going to be what you need to go to. I figured it out eventually, and we deleted the thing on the screen, but it's all these little flags. I think a lot of these come from foreign sources, and anytime anybody's asking you to take control of your screen, that's a big no-no.
Thank you. That, I don't know if I would have told that story. It
It
is
can happen to anyone, so.
Yeah, and it is embarrassing, but here is the point. If it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true. I think that's the one thing, if everybody adopts that default, you're gonna be better off. Bankers, continue, please.
I think with that too, if there's a phone number calling you don't recognize, don't answer it. If it's truly somebody wanting to get hold of you or somebody you know, they'll leave a message or they'll call you back again. Scam artists, if they're not going to leave you a message, but they'll keep trying. I would say just if it says spam especially, don't answer. That's the first way you can stop any of this from happening.
So what is the most common 2 or 3 scams that you guys see at the banks?
I can start. We're seeing a lot of bank impersonation scams where you might get a phone call or a text or a email claiming to be from your own financial institution, right? So if you get a phone call and they're saying they're from your bank and maybe there's an issue with your account, and especially with AI, you're not going to always hear that broken English voice anymore. It's going to sound like they're from maybe the Midwest. It's going to sound like they're from around here. So if you aren't expecting a call, the best thing to do is hang up the phone and call back the number on the back of your debit card or call the number you have saved for your own financial institution and ask for either the person who just called you or ask if something's wrong with your account, and they'll get you directed to the right place. Because that's a really big scam that's going around, and some of the tactics that they're using is just, they're trying to get your personal information, like your passwords, your online banking credentials, and we don't need that as banks. Banks never ask that. We don't ask for your full debit card numbers. We don't ask for your passwords, your usernames, and all that. So just, if you get that gut feeling, just hang up and call your bank back, because you don't want to be a victim of that. Especially these phone calls that say they need you to put your money in a safe space or a safe spot, because maybe your financial institution is under investigation for something. That's one that's been going around too. So then they coerce you into getting most of your cash out of your bank account somehow, and then put it into one of these crypto Bitcoin machines that are in all these gas stations or stores. If you find yourself about to do that, just pause, take a 10-minute pause and think, does this sound logical? What am I doing here? So just be careful.
I'm gonna comment on the crypto thing real quick. We've seen, at least the last couple months too, when somebody is a victim of a crypto scam where they're wanting you to go deposit money in one of these crypto machines, they're getting smarter. They're taking you out of New Ulm and directing you to Mankato now. So, I mean, that would be another red flag, is they don't want you to be here local where somebody might recognize you or somebody might say, hey, what are you doing? They want you to go somewhere where you're not recognized, where somebody is less likely to stop you.
And
So,
if t-
oh, go ahead, please. I'm getting to the question.
To tie off of what Renee just said, some of these scams also, these scammers will tell you not to tell anybody. Don't call your financial, don't call a friend or family member. That's a huge red flag right there. So if anybody ever tells you not to say anything, I would definitely hang up and end the call and communication with them right away.
Or we've even have them too where they stay on the phone and the customer will come into us and their phone has this person on there. They want to withdraw money, take this money, send it FedEx, UPS. We've had a woman that came in and she went out to Walmart. They told her, go out to Walmart, put your $10,000 in this envelope, take it out there, we'll put a stamp on it. She got there and went to the UPS driver and he says, I don't want your money. She came back to the bank and she was totally embarrassed. Again, when you come in and you take out a large sum of money, don't get upset when we maybe question you to ask you what you're buying. Are you getting a gift? Are you giving this as a gift? Or whatever? Because we're just trying to help you out, because if that money's gone, it's gone and you can't recoup it.
So bankers have a know your customer rule. If you want your money, you can take it. They can't stop you. But if they question you or ask you, this seems unusual, can we just talk through this? Let them. Don't be mad at them. We have a question over here.
Yeah, I have a friend that actually got hung up with this cryptocurrency thing. She claimed she went to one of the local banks and asked for, I believe it was $175,000 in $1 bills. And she said they gave it to her and told her to go to Mankato and put it in these machines like you're explaining. She went to one of them, she put in $2,000 and then it wouldn't take anymore. So she had to go to a different station or whatever it was. And luckily, a young college kid came out and said, this machine is not working. I think it's some kind of a scam. And she was so thankful because she would have lost everything if she'd put everything in there. She did lose $2,000 that she did not get back. Okay, there's the question about how come the bank gave her that much money? I said, didn't they question you? And she said, no. They took her to a back room, counted the money out for her the way she wanted it.
Well, I don't know about the rest of you, but when somebody comes in to take a large sum of money, we question them. We want to make sure that they're taking it for something that is actually for them, not that they're going to hand it off.
And sometimes they're so involved in the scam that they're afraid to share the truth as to what's actually happening. We had a situation not too long ago where someone came in wanting to withdraw a bunch of money, and they said that they were starting up their business to purchase clothing for it. So, long story short, it was actually a scam that was going on, and the person was just telling us what the scammers were telling them to say. So, we definitely would question that piece of it.
And we have clients that they come in and ask to withdraw cash. If it is out of the norm, we are going to ask questions. And we unfortunately had someone that they followed the rules that the scammer told them, and it was actually a UPS driver that delivered their package to the local police department, and they were not out the funds, but they told them specifically what to do, take pictures, send them pictures along the way as to how they were to wrap the money. And this went over the course of a couple days. So again, there was some time involved there, but they had them so scared and created such urgency and embarrassment, they did not want to talk to somebody. So thankfully for the UPS driver, they were not out any funds.
I just wanted to add the, anytime that you get someone, especially if they're, if it's a scammer, they're gonna tell you, if someone tells you to lie or say a specific thing, that's like the biggest red flag there can be. Like that, why, if it's a real thing, why would you be lying about it, right?
And I just want to add too, that the scammers are wonderful at scare tactics. So, I mean, it makes sense to all of us in the room today that we wouldn't fall for that, right? But in reality, when somebody's on the phone with us for an hour, 2 or 3 hours, and they're just talking kindly, and then when it comes to the fact that they want us to go get the money, and we start to question it, then they put scare tactics in our heads. It's almost like we're in a trance. So that's where I say, and all of the panelists here today are saying, if you feel yourself walking into the branch, maybe on your phone, it's okay to lay your phone on the counter, because I know that yourself as a victim are so scared at this point. It's okay to take your phone, because you don't want the caller to know you're doing it. It's okay to lay it on the counter, take a piece of paper and say, I don't trust the person on the phone. We as financial institution we've had that happen before. And what we do as a bank is we take your phone, hang it up for you, and that just takes the weight off your shoulders. So if you feel yourself in that position, it's okay to just give us the phone and let us do the hard work.
So at the end of life, there are 2 documents that are very important. One is power of attorney, and that's for when you're alive. And then the other one is personal representative, and the term or phrase or the word that used to be used is executor. Executor, executrix. In Minnesota, they now call it personal representative. So that's somebody who represents you after you die. Commonly, often, an adult child will be one of them, or maybe both of them. And my suggestion to you, from a wife who works in a bank and from talking to the bankers, bring your adult child in. Introduce them to the bank. Let them know who you work with at the bank. Now, Lou Geisfeld told this story 11 years ago, or Cindy Lewis shared it. He was president of Citizens Bank. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, shows up a long-lost nephew. Here's what Lou said. Send him up here, I'll deal with him. Questions? Oh, Michael, you had something here. Data breach and freeze credit. Let's talk a little bit about that. I'll get over to John.
As far as how to do so, or?
Well, none of the banks here have had a data breach?
No.
Okay.
No.
So what does the term freeze credit mean, and how would they go about it?
Freeze credit would be where you call a credit bureau and you provide them the information proving that it is you. And then what happens is you cannot open a credit card, take out an auto loan or a home loan without you contacting them. So if you feel someone has stolen your identity, all of a sudden your mail is being forwarded, something looks off, what you can do is you can then call the credit bureau, put a freeze on your credit report, credit or social security number, and no credit can be obtained. So kind of like, going back to what you said about like home takeovers and everything like that, they cannot take out any additional or new debt under your name. And so a lot of us have identity theft information available within our branch or on our website that gives you the phone number that you can call and put the freeze on your credit score. It also tells you just different things to do if you have fallen victim to identity theft or your wallet or your purse was stolen, because when you look at it that way, they have credit cards, they have your driver's license, all of that. So a lot of us will help you and walk you through that process. Yeah, so.
What was the question? What was the question?
If you want to then unfreeze your credit, say you want to get an auto loan or you're looking to do something with your home, yes, you would just call and unfreeze it. And a lot of times too, what they can do is they will unfreeze it for 24 to 48 hours and then they will freeze it again. Or what they do is they will give you a code that then the bank can put in when ordering a credit report, and that we obtain that code, which then releases the credit report to us. So it's all again about verification and just making sure that that has happened. And again, like the data breaches, we have seen, you know, a lot of customers come in with those letters. And so we do tell them to freeze their credit because there's nothing wrong with having that additional layer of security out there on your behalf.
And I personally keep mine frozen because I had somebody open a credit card at Walmart in like Maryland one year in my Social Security, with my Social Security number. It's very easy to unfreeze your credit. A lot of times you can actually do it online as well.
I can attest to this personally. My wife and I also have ours frozen too, not because we've had our identity stolen, just because we don't trust anyone. So and we recently bought a new vehicle, and all we had to do was basically go online, and we unfroze it for I think 72 hours, I think, and that was plenty, and it's back frozen again. So.
Also, when credit is pulled, so we get a report, and there are different addresses that can pull up that are associated with your name and your Social Security number. So when you're sitting down, if you are, you know, across from your local banker, review that credit report with them, because if someone does have or has tried to open an account and hasn't been successful, if there's an address that doesn't match up, you know, maybe you co-signed a loan for a child, so their address is showing up on there. That makes sense, but say someone has tried to steal your identity, those are going to be red flags that then you can watch and then freeze your credit if it's just not adding up or making sense.
Grandpa, this is Adam. I'm in jail. Anyone get that call? Yep. That was huge 11 years ago when we did the workshop. Maybe it still is, I don't know. Yeah, I got a couple up here nodding. Yeah, it's still huge. Other scams that you see at the bank that you, if you could plead with people here, what would you plead with? What are the scams?
I want to talk a little bit about some Facebook scams. Who all uses Facebook? Quite a few. So we've seen some situations where clients will receive a message in their inbox claiming to be from a family member or friend needing money quickly. That's a red flag right there, quickly. They state that their vehicle broke down, need extra $1,000 to fix, and they'll pay you back whenever they have the money. They ask you to send them through send that $1,000 through a payment platform. They may even ask you to download like Apple Cash, Venmo, Cash App to send the funds. So you send the $1,000 and all is good, right? You're helping them out, or you're talking to somebody that you know. Wrong. Your family member's account has been taken over, and it's not them actually messaging you. So what do you do in a situation like that? It's really hard to recoup the funds after you send the funds through a payment platform. You could reach out to Cash App or Venmo or Apple Cash, but in most cases, once the transaction is authorized and initiated by the account holder, funds cannot be recovered. So again, red flags with this, the sense of urgency. Does that person usually communicate with you through Facebook Messenger? If not, this is a red flag. Call that person, say, hey, I just received this message. Is this you contacting me? Because once you start that initial communication, I mean, they really try and use those scare tactics and other tactics to get more information out of you.
Jenny?
As far as identity theft, what about when people put so much information in obituaries, as far as names and places where they were born and baptized, mother's maiden name, How do you feel about that as far as identity theft?
So the question was, my words, we're putting a lot of information into obituaries. Is that contributing to identity theft? Thoughts?
I don't know if it's as much identity theft, but they are definitely following our obituaries. Getting your name, you're more vulnerable, you just went through a hard time. They're looking to push on people like that.
So they're looking for the survivors,
I think more so, yes.
not to hack the
Yep.
a deceased
I mean, we
person's
still
account.
see identity theft, but I think more so, right now, we're seeing them reaching out to people that are vulnerable or had just gone through something like this, that, maybe aren't in the clearest mindset.
Okay.
Well, I think too, how many of you have received the random text message and you're like, oh, sorry, wrong number, and then they try to engage in a conversation? Just delete it right away, because what they're doing is they are trying to pull you in and then form that friendship and then start asking for different either information and or funds, or for you to go buy gift cards and give them the number off the back.
Make sure if they call you and they say, is this such and such a person, don't say yes, because they got you right there.
Yeah, so what she said is when they call you and they ask if this is so-and-so, don't say yes, because then they have your voice recording saying yes that can be used for different things.
So is there,
So just real quick, with that being said, the way AI is now, it literally only takes 3.7 seconds of your voice for them to generate your entire dialogue.
so for those that are not up on technology like me, but I've been hearing more and more about this. So AI, artificial intelligence, what she just said is can take a snippet of your voice, and then, and I've heard about this several times now already, not at a fraud seminar. They can take your voice, feed into the computer a whole speech, and now they've got you speaking that speech in your voice with only 3.7 seconds of your voice.
And I will add to that too, that's where the grandparent scams are being more effective now too, because our grandchildren are big on social media, and then they get social engineered, and with AI taking their actual voice and calling you, it just makes us believe it even more. So it's very important to call, mom and dad or somebody to make sure that your loved one is not in jail or hijacked or whatever. Make sure they're safe before you follow through with their demands.
My father used to say that he didn't feel right if he didn't have 20,000 in his checking account. And as a kid, you don't know what that means until you have 20,000 in your checking account. And now I'm going, are our balances too high on our checking accounts? Should we lower them? And I'm asking genuinely, because at least now, where was the 175,000 in ones? She only lost 2,000. I don't know, I'm asking.
Well, and I think with accounts, with technology, you can, if you do decide to use it, you can set up alerts on your online banking. If anything clears your account for over X dollar amount, you want to receive a notification. You can turn on and off your debit card. By law, we have to provide a monthly statement to you. We highly recommend you open that statement and you review it. And even if you are looking at your account online, let us know as soon as you notice something that's not right. Don't wait until that statement comes in the mail. We want to hear from you right away. And so again, it's not that we're trying to fill your mailbox, but it is information that we want you to review, just like your credit card statement. Review those credit card statements. Don't just take it for granted that this is accurate. We want you to verify.
Also with limits, there's limits on just about anything, especially your debit card. We set those limits because of fraud. It's not because we want to keep you from your money, but if you call us to increase your limit to a very high amount, we might ask a couple questions just because we want to protect you. So that's there's limits for those transfers electronically, and also on your debit card.
And with those limits too, I mean, if you don't want your debit card limit to be, say $1,500 a daily spending limit, you can permanently lower those limits as well.
And also, debit cards work just like credit cards, except the only thing is you're coming in and personally dealing with us versus that credit card representative on the other side. And so if your debit card has been or has fraud on it, you would work directly with us. And the other thing too is probably a lot of us have a fraud department that does monitor, so it gets to know what your spending is on your debit card. If it is anything out of the ordinary, it may decline that transaction. If it's international, it'll decline it. But then you can work with us to say, yes, that was me, I did want to purchase it. And a lot of times we'll get calls from somebody that their debit card, they got the fraud alert. They didn't realize it was coming out of a different country, so they're like, no, you know what, I really don't want to move forward with that purchase, and it's been declined.
So recently, I had a trip to Boise, Idaho, and I had a trip to Florida back to back. And I called Sarah and I called Bank Midwest and I said, okay, here are the states I'm going to be in. Please open them up for me. And then the week or a day or two after I got back, then they go off. What do I mean by that? So my Bank Midwest card I can go to Wisconsin, I don't have to call Sarah. I can go to Iowa, I can go to the Dakotas. I don't have to call Bank Midwest. Anywhere else in the country, I got to call them and tell them to open them up. And that's what I want. I think you can do that with all the banks, actually.
Absolutely, yeah.
And they're all nodding, yes, you can. So we're going to be a little fluid here today because we had more people than I thought. We're going to run a little bit longer with the banks. We're going to take a very quick break. I'm going to bring Candace up. We're going to talk about some things at Oak Hills. And then we'll bring up law enforcement. And we're probably, candidly, frankly, going to run till about noon. But if you need to leave earlier, please do. All right. Other thoughts from the panel? Other questions from the audience?
I think it's also really important, do not ever give out your banking username and password to anyone. Your kids, if you have a kid on your account, they can log in as themselves too, but it's really important to never give them information because they have access to everything then. We've seen it where people get their computer taken over and they'll say, oh, we put this money in your account, we need that back. Well, really, they've gotten access to in your online banking and they move from one account to the other. So they're just playing with your mind, making it look like you really got this money, but it was really just from your own bank account. So it's just really important to not ever give that out.
I got a question right here.
How do I protect myself when I'm paying bills, like my credit card bills online from my checking account? Is that something I should just stop doing and go back to mail? Or how can I protect myself?
There's a lot of, you're going to see it with mail, where they will take checks out of mailboxes, they will wash them, and think about it, anytime you write out a check and you hand it to somebody, you have given them all of your bank information, your routing number's on there, your account number's on there. So a lot of times too, with bill pay, what will happen is if you go to your bank, your online banking, pay through bill pay, sometimes what they do with the payment is they'll send it ACH, which means it's automatically sent through like the network. There's not a check that's cut. Think of it like your direct deposit that comes in, but it's a direct payment going out. Other times what they will do is they will pull it out of your account and then they will send a check that has a different routing number, different account number on there, so that it doesn't have your account information. And today, for example, we had a client that I was just working with, checks were printed and it wasn't their check, so there's affidavit of forgery that we filed, and now we're working on sending that off and recouping those funds for that client. And so again, it was their account with somebody else's name on the check that was written out.
I sometimes feel like I should just put my money in a Folgers can and walk around with it. Renee, why don't you bring us to a close here on this first half?
So I think probably a lot of you still have a lot of questions. I hope us being here today puts a face with the bank or the financial institution you're with. And don't ever hesitate to come talk to one of us. We're here to help. We're not going to shame you. We're not there for you to feel embarrassed. We want to help you just as much as we can so this doesn't happen to you. Even pick up the phone and say, hey, I got this weird pop-up, Renee. What should I do? You know, before you click it or before you go too far, the damage is already done. And you know, unfortunately, if you do become victim of fraud, the sooner you let us know, the faster we can act on it. Okay? Anybody else have anything before we wrap up?
All right, very good. Duck in.
So
I think
I think, so what she'd asked is basically, is there a call service or somewhere you can call, whether you are a person or a client of that bank, correct? Or not? Right. So, I mean, I would say, me personally, if you're a client of mine or not, I'm still going to help you. If you stop in, if you call. We get phone calls from other banks, like Alliance Bank. We're not the only Alliance Bank in the United States. We get a lot of phone calls from other Alliance banks, and sometimes you end up having a full-blown conversation with a client that is not yours. And it's okay because you just helped that person too. I guess I can't speak for everybody, but I would guess that, any question you have for any financial institution in town, we would be happy to help you.
Yeah, in that regards, there's no such thing as a dumb question.
Yeah.
We are here to partner with you. We do not want any funds getting into the fraudsters' hands. You have worked hard for your money, and they do not need those funds. We want to stop it as soon as we can.
I was reviewing my scam calls and my emails in the last couple of days, and I realized we're getting pummeled, attacked on a daily basis, each and every one of us. You can spot most of them. I know you can. But here's what else I know. I love New Ulm. You guys are the greatest people in this country. You're too nice. If somebody says, oh, Shell's is my favorite beer, they're a friend for life. Well, they're my friend for life. You gotta say no. You gotta hang up. You gotta go to bed at night repenting that you hurt somebody's feelings, but you needed to do that. Somebody in India that doesn't care about you.
You don't need to repent for hurting those guys' feelings.
What was that?
You don't need to repent for hurting someone who's ripping you off.
Right.
And
Thank
before
you
we leave
for
the front,
clarity.
there were, I know not everybody, just because of the amazing turnout, we did have information in the back about different scams, different statistics, everything like that. So if you are interested in that information and didn't get it, just check with your local financial institution. And I'm guessing maybe by the turnout, we'll probably be seeing all of you again at some point. So we know then to bring more.
All right, very good. Let's take a quick break here. I see a hand. Is it a question for the bankers? I'm sorry. Oh, yes, yes, yes. The first time I go in and talk to Renee, and then shortly after I talk to Chief Borkert, they tell me about this. What's the new thing to go and buy Apple Pay cards or Apple, what is it? Explain that one, because.
Well, I think we had talked about the gift card scam.
Gift card.
Yeah, so that's a little different than Apple Pay. Crystal might be more familiar with Apple Pay.
I'm not really too familiar with Apple Pay, but it is more of another payment platform where you can send funds to somebody else, like Venmo, Cash App, things like that. So again, if you get somebody reaching out saying, hey, I need money, why don't you download this payment platform, Apple Cash, Apple Pay, huge red flag. I would stop right there and end conversation with them. Not to say that all transactions are bad through Apple Pay, because there's a lot of people that use it, including Venmo, Cash App, but just be aware of who you're sending the funds to and that you know where they're going.
Because a lot of times what they're doing is they have so many different payment platforms set up, so as soon as they receive those funds, they're moving it into another platform, and so the money just keeps moving.
Yeah, the person-to-person platforms are great. They're a nice way to send money when you're sending from two different financial institutions, but like Crystal said, just make sure you know who you're sending to. They're safe, but you have to know who you're sending to.
I think the one you and I talked about is they go to Walmart and buy $10, $50 Apple
Just
iTunes?
iTunes or gift cards in general. Because a lot of scam artists want you to go buy these gift cards and then come back and give them the code right over the phone. They're spending those gift cards while it's in your hands. So the nice thing is in here in New Ulm, a lot of the establishments like Walgreens, your dollar store, Walmart, they're watching for transactions like this. They are likely going to ask you questions if you are buying a large amount of gift cards, because they are well aware of this scam and they are reporting it.
The other thing too is that they do have warning signs posted where you can buy the gift cards, as well as back to the whole Bitcoin thing. The Bitcoin ATMs also has warnings on there, are you being scammed, and maybe just stop before you actually send the funds.
All right, very good. This time I'm going to stop this portion. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to get law enforcement up here. Candace, don't go too far. I want to have a chit chat with you, but give me a few minutes. Come on up. Candace, snuggle up with me here. I think everybody knows Candace at Oak Hills. I asked her to come in. 11 years ago, she was actually part of my panel. And it's not that she did a bad job. It's just, you can see how I got this broken up. Bankers and then law enforcement. And she's a nice in-between segue to help you guys understand what she is seeing at Oak Hills. So Candace, I'm going to let you hold the microphone. Hold it close, please.
All right, well, so the biggest thing that I'm going to share with all of you is, I work at Oak Hills, and we're a senior living facility. We nursing home and assisted living residents, and scams happen sometimes at our facility. And some of the recent scams are mainly getting texts like from Easy Pass. I'm sure many of you received that. So on their cell phones, some people get, scams in the mail. But a lot of times they seem to, go after people that may be a little lonely. A couple years ago, we had a resident who had recently lost their spouse and was struggling a little bit, and was communicating with a gentleman in some other state, and she was sending him money to fly to come and visit her. And luckily, we do training with all of our staff upon hire. When someone gets hired, we do training to pick up on signs if someone is maybe their behavior's changing, or they may be making some comments or things like that. So fortunately, one of our staff members did bring it to her manager, and we were able to stop what was happening. Unfortunately, there was some money that had been spent already for plane tickets and some other things. But so the biggest thing is, do not feel embarrassed. And I think it was Sarah who mentioned that just take a few minutes, take 10 minutes, and really think about, does it sound logical or not? Because a lot of times we panic and we respond right away, and that is what gets us into trouble. And this happens to all ages. It's not just elderly people that are in the nursing home that we've witnessed personally. It happened to my daughter 7 years ago. She was 15 and she was on some social media, and all of a sudden somebody hacked in and said they needed money to get her account going. And she absolutely freaked out because, you can't be without your social media at that age. And she's crying, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm kind of panicking as well. And we actually ended up calling the number that they had, so I was scammed. And luckily, we were able to get out of it. But it's happening to everybody and all sorts of different ages. So do not be afraid to speak up or say something, because it's happening to everybody, and no matter what level you're at of age or any of that. So again, like at Oak Hills, we do training on all of our staff upon hire to pick up on some of these things, as well as annual training as a reminder, because we all are mandated reporters as well.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, let's, how many we got? I thought we had Inspector Molinoff. Oh, there he is. Okay, Chuck. And I got Molly and Aaron, and you're, oh, okay. Yeah. Anybody else? Anybody else?
No.
Is this our panel? Oh, so I know Dave Borkert's out here, and he said, I'm just in the audience today. If you need me, I'll come up, but we'll try to do it without Dave today. All right, so we have Chief Inspector Molinoff, Brown County Attorney Chuck Hansen, Andrew Konitschke,
Yep, Brown County Sheriff's Office.
Brown County Sheriff's Office, and Molly and Aaron from Human Services. And you both work for Ann or Annie, or both of them?
Both.
Both, okay. All right, so, oh, there's Dave. Yeah, join us, please, thank you. Dave Borkert said to me a month ago, we were down in the studio getting ready to shoot the New Cat promo with Renee Thorson, and he said, hundreds of thousands of dollars leave New Ulm, Minnesota every month to fraud and scams. He doesn't have the actual number. He's convinced that's the number, and Renee Thorson looked at him and said, I think that's true. I think that's an accurate number. The size, so I did a survey. I was trying to figure out a way to know how many people would come, right? How'd that work out, Mark? So I set up this survey, 39 people answered it. I should have kicked out everybody who didn't take it. All right. So my questions, and it was anonymous. I don't know who answered the survey. I didn't want to. But my last question was, how many are coming to the workshop? So what were the questions before that? Second question, have you or someone you know been a victim or almost been a victim? 13 yes, themselves, 13 yes, family, 10 no. 6 not sure. Isn't that interesting? What have we talked about the first half? If it doesn't sound right, hang up. Some people might have been scammed and they don't realize it. All right. What was the dollar amount? So 11 said not sure. That means they know somebody that got scammed. They just never heard the final tally. 10 to $100 to 1,000. 1. 1,000 to 10,000, 7. 10,000 to 50,000, 1. And that's where I stopped. And then I had other, and I didn't see what the dollar amount was. When did the scam occur? 5 of them in 2025, 5 of them in 2024, 9 of them the last 2 to 5 years, and 9 of them before COVID. How did the scammers communicate? The telephone company loves you people. You're the last of the landlines. And I know why you have it. Landline, 11. Cell phone, 11. By text, 4. By email, 11. And we've talked at great length about the email scams. So what safeguards do you now use? Lowered my daily credit, lowered what that was 3, I think. Opened up an annuity or a CD for a large chunk of my money, that was 1. Credit freeze, that was 3. Used 2-factor authentication, that was 11. Do you know what 2-factor authentication is? So you log into your bank account, and then they send you a text to put that code into a box, and then you click on it. That's two-factor authentication. Do you check your accounts daily? 14 said yes. Shred sensitive data, 18 said yes. Purchased identity theft protection, 6. All right. I sent the report to all of the bankers and everybody at this table, so I'm going to let them talk about what they want to talk about. Dave, you and I have had the most dialogue on this banquet, on this workshop. Do you mind just kind of taking the lead here?
Sure. Everybody hear me okay? So my name is Dave Borkert. I'm the Chief of Police for the City of New Ulm. I've been with the police department here. This is my 3rd department, but I've been in New Ulm since 1999 and worked my way through the ranks. I encountered a lot of this is working with the community regarding fraud when I was a detective. So that's already been a few years ago. But I was very surprised at the amount of scams that were happening on a very regular basis. And I was confident back then that we were only catching a fraction of it because it's very underreported. Most individuals, if they've encountered something, they're embarrassed about it. They're not sharing, and I'll find out about it even later on that someone, unfortunately was a victim of a scam. That's still happening. In fact, I couldn't believe it was going to get worse back then. It's gotten worse. And now with artificial intelligence and, there's several different platforms out there as well. It's just really a daily thing. I'm very confident when we talk about hundreds of thousands of dollars a month for the city, for this region. I'm confident that's very accurate. So, just maybe to start off, because a lot of our detectives and people working in human services, they're encountering it firsthand on a daily basis. I'm usually just reading the reports and hearing about it, providing some oversight, but I know that there's a lot of it going on, and it's gotten worse. And they're always trying to, and just kind of reinforcing what I've heard just earlier today, is they like to. The scammers will always try to play with emotion. So they really like you to get rattled where you're panicking. And they love, if it's a situation where you're embarrassed, you're probably not going to tell later on, and that you're fearful, like something just happened. And the scams really vary. There's the old-fashioned one that's still around, but Grandma, I'm calling because I'm in jail. That's a common one. That was common 20 years ago. We encountered that. We encounter that this day and age as well. In fact, they've become more sophisticated. But again, several different types of scams. But if you think about that, that's what they're always relying on. They're trying to get you rattled, trying to get you emotional, usually fearful, and that you have to do something right now or the world's going to crash. you're gonna lose this, or this is an opportunity. So, when I talked with Mark earlier about this, as far as setting something up, and I'm very pleased with the turnout, so thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you St. Paul's for hosting this. This is very valuable for the community. The biggest thing that we can do when we're talking about that, though, is prevention. Because when we get the calls, people will, reach out to us, and a lot of times reach out to me personally, because they know me, and they're saying, is there any way we can recover this money? I just lost $10,000. And the recovery is extremely, extremely difficult. I'm going to say in most cases, most of this stuff is happening overseas, impossible. Like literally, we're not going to be able to recover the money. They're from another sovereign country, sovereign nation. Some of these countries actually figure this in as far as their economic. They actually basically tax for these type of services within their country. So it's legitimate business there, and we're the ones that are encountering the losses. So the biggest thing is the prevention. And one thing I'm not going to, I want to use our time wisely. But when we're talking about prevention, so if I'm talking with anybody with business, and they're calling me, usually, sometimes I'm a little skeptical, but sometimes I'm not completely skeptical. I just have a practice in place. First of all, when I'm talking to them, I take control. I'm like, okay, I'd like to have your name and what's your employee ID number? How can I reach you? And whatever number they give me, as far as the phone number, I'll write it down. But then usually they'll try to, speed me up. It's like, no, we got to take care of this right now. It's like, no, we're not taking care of this right now. We're taking care of this at my earliest convenience. And I may be calling you right back. What's your schedule look like? Otherwise, it might be tomorrow. Again, situations like that, if they're hanging up, that was a scam. Otherwise, what I'll do is I'll actually look up a number that I'm calling Citizens Bank, or I'm calling Franson, and I'm reaching out, and normally these people aren't local, but I'll actually go through, and then when I get whoever the representative is from the banking agency or whatever business it is, I'll say, okay, do you have so-and-so working for you with this ID number? And oftentimes, because this is a common practice, they're like, absolutely. Well, then forward me to their number, please. And then internally, and in that case, I'm relatively confident that about 99% of the time, this day and age, I've probably avoided any scam. And then I feel comfortable having that conversation. So doing those preventive things, again, taking that control. And it's on your terms and not on theirs. Because if they're trying to rush you, I have a lot of concerns about that situation. And then, if they don't hang up, I'll just hang up. Because again, they're going to work in my timetable. And that's my personal thing. And then we talk about credit limits. My wife put that in place. So like on our credit cards, and I don't know if, I think it was for scams or it's, otherwise she's trying to control how I spend money. Because if I go to anywhere, she'll be like, you're in Mankato's at Shields and you just, what, is that you? It's like, well, that's me. And why are you spending more money on fishing equipment or whatever? But anyhow, those are very effective. And I mean, I've just found firsthand, like those type of control measures, it's very convenient. It doesn't delay anything, and you literally know when your card's being used. So I think that technology, you can use it for our advantage as well. And again, very simple measures that you can talk with your banking institution, and it's very effective. So with that,
Excellent. Thank you. That one takeaway, I wanted everybody to take something away. I hope you take a lot away. But there's my one takeaway. Take control. It's your money. It's your life. It's your livelihood. Take control. And it takes a little extra time. Excellent. Thank you. I'm going to swing to this side of the table and go to one of his reports. Chris Mullinoff. Chris, unpack a little bit of things that you've been seeing in the last year or so.
So, you hear me? So the scams, generally, I've been doing this since 2008 investigation, so I see my fair share of different types of scams, and they really do, you've got your main scams, and they kind of fluctuate, and then technology changes, and then things change a little bit more. But the same premise typically is the same. We see a lot of the similar things with the grandparent scams. We still see those. But I would say the most recent ones that we've been seeing are what I would say cold call, cold text messaging, and emails that have been coming up. And I think we all get them. We get those random text messages, or we get a phone call where they're looking for somebody else, and then you say they got the wrong number and say, well, hey, I got you on the line, and then go through their spiel. We've been seeing a lot of that. One thing I did want to mention too, that Candace had mentioned, that it's not just an older demographic. I mean, we do see younger people getting scammed as well. Just one that comes to mind is we had a younger employee that took a phone call at her place of employment and was convinced that they were the IRS and that they needed to pay their taxes, and convinced her to take money out of the till and then run to all these different stores and buy gift cards. No fault, to her. I mean, she, again, it was a high pressure tactic that we learned later, and she just felt that she had to do it. One thing that the scammers will do almost universally is that they will isolate and then really move fast. And I think if there's a common theme that you guys have probably heard from all the bankers and just what Dave shared too, is you really need to take your time. I don't feel that you need to act right now. If I get these calls, or even if I'm transacting on a business, I typically will do a little bit of research on them, or Google them at least. A lot of people that come into our office and report scams, I can simply go to my computer and Google who they were, what they did, and there'll be a website up there that pops up saying that this is a scam right off the bat. So just a simple search oftentimes will tell you that these things really are scams. Probably the one that I see a lot of, and some of our human service people can also speak to, are the sweetheart scams. And these are probably, I think, the most devastating ones, because the scammers really do take their time with these individuals and develop a relationship. So this is kind of the exception to the rule, where they're trying to extort money right away. I've seen some relationships go 6 months to a year. They don't ask for big money right away. It's usually small, but eventually it increases and it continues to go on. And some people get really vested in these relationships. I've had cases where they've sent rings, jewelry to these people, albeit it was bought on a stolen credit card from somewhere else. But they do create relationships, and then they completely wipe them out. And some people I've talked to, they ask, when did you discover it was a scam? And they'll say, well, it was when I ran out of money. And then I realized I shouldn't have been doing that.
Chris trailed off there. I don't know if you heard the very ending. He was asked, or the victim was asked, when did you realize it was a scam? When I ran out of money.
Yeah. So, and that's really too late.
Yeah. Recently, so they're counting on cognitive impairment. That's part of it too. Recently, within the last year, somebody who's a very sharp businessman got scammed out of $300,000. Andrew Kanitsky, go ahead. Give us some opening remarks, please.
It wasn't me. I wasn't the guy that $300,000. If I had that much money, I wouldn't be here. But the bankers mentioned something earlier.
Closer on the mic, please.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Well, you really got to get in here. Okay. You're going to have to disinfect this when I'm done. The banker said something earlier that if you go to a bank and you're trying to do a bank wire transfer or withdraw some cash for something, and if they start asking you questions, they're just doing it because they maybe know some trends. and they maybe just are trying to figure out what's going on to see if maybe you're getting scammed. So if they start asking you questions, just let that happen. They might be able to help prevent something. Because if you get past that point and you've wire transferred some money, and now you're at the point where you're talking to law enforcement looking for our help, I can tell you it's not going to be good. On top of some of these kind of simple scams, we've also I've investigated a few cases that involve a little bit of a network that has some unwilling people involved in it as well. We always want to trace the money. We want to see where the money goes. And the criminals know that, and so they'll make you use stuff that we can't trace. They'll make you use gift cards, and they'll say, now on the back of the gift card, scratch it, and there's a code number. Take a picture of that code number. So you take a picture of that code number and send it to them. They're able to redeem that gift card just by those codes, and depending on what gift card it is, it's like throwing $100 in the river. We're probably not gonna be able to find it. There have been some instances where people have actually wired money to an actual bank account, which is fantastic because I think we can get search warrants for bank accounts. And there was a gentleman in Brown County who thought he was buying a tractor. Apparently it was a really good deal, and he ended up wiring $40,000 to a bank account after he had sought it out. He talked to these people online. The guy gave him his phone number. The guy would always pick up whenever he would call. It seemed like a legitimate thing. He couldn't go out and see the tractor. He had to do a virtual tour, but that was fine. So he did a little virtual tour and the thing, and he decided to buy it. And he says, "Yeah, we'll wire the money to this account, and we'll have it delivered next week." Well, by next week when it didn't show up, he figured he probably was scammed. And that money went to a Wells Fargo account, and I did a search warrant on the Wells Fargo account, and I found 3 other victims. One was up in Maine. He thought he was buying a Chevelle muscle car, and another person down in Iowa thought they were buying, some car kind of from the same. I think they were doing different websites, but the money was all going to this account. Anyway, long story short, Homeland Security Investigations got a little involved in it too because there was some information that these people were located in Florida. They would come to find out it was like Romanian nationals, and the money was leaving this account and going to Bitcoin accounts and just disappearing. So it's like cloak and dagger stuff, and it's prevention is better than trying to hold somebody responsible because it's extremely hard to do that. So.
Brown County Attorney Chuck Hansen, I want to kind of bring you in the end when you can help let us know what you need to get a conviction. But I want to go to Molly and Aaron and have you guys, you both share some thoughts on what you're seeing and what can be helpful for people here.
Can you guys hear me okay? I'm kind of soft-spoken. So my name is Molly. I work for Brown County. I do adult protection, so I'm the one that typically works the closest with the individuals. We've already kind of heard, we see a lot of romance scams. So that's the sweetheart scams where they do. A lot of times these are people who are isolated. They don't have very many family members. They don't have very many friends. And so they're looking for that friendship, and they're looking for somebody that is going to be nice to them. And that's what they get out of it, is they feel less isolated. They get that intimacy that a lot of people need. And that's when they start falling for these individuals. And kind of like Chris said, they ask for just little amounts each time. It could be $10 here or there. Oftentimes they'll say that they have a family and, oh, my son has this condition. Can you please send me money for my son? Or I need some money to get a plane ticket. So they really do prey on these vulnerable individuals that are looking for relationships. And it is very hard to, like law enforcement said, track these people down. So kind of my job in this situation is I work with these individuals personally, and I help them try to stop that bleed of losing that money. So I will work with the banks, we'll work with law enforcement to try to help these individuals as much as possible and prevent them from losing more money. And we provide education as well on a lot of these romance scams, other scams that law enforcement and the bank have already talked about as well.
So Molly, Aaron, how do you become aware that somebody is being scammed?
Oftentimes, we get reports. There's a reporting center that's specifically for the state of Minnesota, and anybody can make reports that they feel that anybody over 18 is falling for a scam or any other sort of abuse and they're vulnerable. They'll make a report to this agency. We get the reports, and then we will go out and investigate those reports and determine if the individual needs some assistance or not.
So if you see me walking and I've got a balance issue, I got maldebarkman syndrome. I thought I had good old-fashioned vertigo, but they said I have maldebarkman. Anybody ever hear that, maldebarkman syndrome? No, everybody says to me, Mark, how come my doctor, I got the balance issue too. He's never told me about it. Look it up, maldebarkman. Thought it was a French tree guy or something. All right, who's doing the reporting on the website? This is the part I got lost.
So it'll be for you individuals, there's a phone number to call where you can make the reports. I don't have the phone number off the top of my head, but if you just do a simple Google report or Google search and have a family member, it's called the Minnesota Adult Abuse Reporting Center.
Or they can call any one of you or their bank.
So they can call us at Human Services, but if they're trying to make like a vulnerable adult report, we will eventually direct them to that phone number. Sometimes people do call us at Human Services because they have questions about loved ones, parents, somebody who they believe has fallen victim to a scam, and they want help to figure out, how do I help my loved one so that they don't continue to fall victim? So I'm our intake social worker, and so my job and my role is really to be the social worker for people who don't have a social worker. So people can call and ask questions about services in the community, services that we have, resources available to them, and then my job is to help provide the information about those resources and get people connected to services. So sometimes people will call us and ask questions, and then I'll give a lot of the information that we've already heard today, like making sure that maybe you get a text message when your debit card is being used that tells you what you purchased, or maybe there's a parent that has difficulty using their money or managing their money, but it's that balance of wanting people to maintain their financial freedom, but also wanting to make sure that you're helping and that they're not falling victim to scams. So it can be as simple as also maybe is there like a power of attorney that can also receive those text messages about money that is being spent in the bank account, so that they're also aware and can help loved ones if they're falling victim to a scam.
Okay. Chuck, what happens next?
Well, kind of the theme, one of the bankers mentioned that prevention is the key because the punishment hardly ever happens, and the reason isn't because we don't want to punish them, it's because we can't. Like Andrew said, Chief said, the vast majority of these scams are being run from overseas, and there's just nothing that we can do once it's happened. To recover the money is very, very rare. If it's something that's local, and I'm not saying that fraud doesn't happen locally, we have that, the best thing there is to keep a paper trail. Keep all of your emails, keep all of your text messages. Whatever you can provide to law enforcement is great. But the biggest thing, again, like everybody said, kind of the thing to take away from this is prevention is key. Prevention is key. Take the situation into your own hands. There's not many things I can guarantee in life. What I can guarantee you is the IRS does not need gift cards. They don't need gift cards. There's huge red flags, a lot of red flags. My daughter just came to me with one the other day. She had a text message, and I think it was the Easy Pass thing. I think it says it's from New York, the toll thing. But the number, if you look at the phone number that it's coming from, it was I think it was +31 or +61. It wasn't a number that originated in the United States. Now, they can spoof numbers, so it looks like it's coming from a legitimate number, but usually they don't even take that time. They just want to get you to respond to they want you to click on that link that's on there to make the payment. And again, it's that scare tactic. It's that sense of urgency. You got to do this right now. I can also guarantee you no IRS agents are going to come to your house just because you don't respond to an email or don't respond to a text message. All right? But she said, Dad, is this legit? And I said, no, it's +31. Let's look it up. It was Singapore. I said, nope, the New York toll system does not run an office out of Singapore. So we can just report it as junk. There's a button at the bottom of the text that says report junk. Just click report junk. If it's really and if you are never in New York using their toll system, I can guarantee you it's junk. But if you think there's a chance, they'll get a hold of you in a legitimate manner. They'll either have a personal phone call or they'll send you an email and it'll come from something legitimate that you can check out. That would be my biggest advice, is just remain calm. Nothing is going to happen immediately. Take your time, call someone, call a loved one. One of the other, something we have in my family that I've talked about with my kids, that's the other thing. Stay in contact with your family. Have some code words. You know, if you get that call from your granddaughter that swears she's in jail and she needs money right now, what I would do is I'd ask my daughter, if it was my daughter, if she's somebody pretending to be my daughter, and with AI, now they could mimic her voice and make it sound like her. I would ask her something that only she would know. AI is not going to know that we had to put our dog Peyton down 6 months ago. I'd ask her something about Peyton. You know, how's Peyton doing? Well, she's doing great. Okay, that's not my daughter, because she'd say, well, Dad, Peyton's dead. You know, figure out some codes that you can have with your family. Say, hey, if you're really in trouble, this is what we're going to talk about. This is what we're going to communicate to each other so that you know that it's actually them. You know, other things you can do is, again, watch for those red flags. I saw a story the other day on video conferencing. It was actually for our security clearances through the FBI. They were talking about how now there's video conferences, and it's a call from somebody purporting to be, you know, your manager or somebody up, and it's an actual person, but it's AI generated. They said there are little things, there won't be wrinkles on their forehead. The mouth won't exactly match up. So there's little things you can look at to see if it's a red flag or not. Bottom line is, if it's something you don't feel comfortable with, I think it was Dave said, get a number. Get a number. Hey, I got some bread in the oven. I got to take it out. I don't want it to burn. Give me your number. I'll call you right back. If the answer is no, I can't accept numbers, it's a scam. Somebody that's legitimately calling you for a legitimate purpose will have a number that you can call them back on.
11 years ago, Jim Schutzel was on my panel. He's a CPA. And he said, Mark, I don't know what good I'll do, but I'll be there. The day before, he gets a call. This is the IRS, and you owe back taxes to a CPA.
Yep. Well, I had a true story, and Andrew investigated this for me. I had somebody from the auditor-treasurer email me and said, hey, did you really want your paycheck to go to this new bank account, this green dot bank account? I said, what are you talking about? She said, yeah, we got an email from your Gmail account that said you wanted to change the direct deposit on your for payroll to this green dot bank account. I said, well, okay, number one, I don't have a Gmail account. Number two, no, that wasn't me. And luckily she caught that. She was at the next step to just go ahead and make that transfer. She said, you know what, I better give Chuck a call just to make sure this is legit. So it can happen. It can happen to anybody, but it's just that remaining vigilant. If something doesn't smell right, it probably isn't.
And now you can all say on the child scam, you can say, well, let me call my chief of police to coordinate with you getting him out.
Yeah, I've had that. My mom, another true story, she came to my house just distraught. She comes driving up the driveway and she's got her phone and she said, Chuck, it's Amazon and they're saying I owe $3,000 and I got to pay this right now. He didn't want me to come to your house, but I said I had to talk to my son before I did anything. He wanted me to give him my credit card number to make this payment. So I got on the phone with the guy and I said, who is this? And I can't speak in an Indian accent, but it was someone with a really thick Indian accent. And he said, Joe from Philadelphia. I said, well, you don't sound like Joe from Philadelphia. And kind of like Dave said, what's your employee ID number? What's a number I can call you back at? He said, well, who is this? I said, well, I'm her son. I'm the county attorney. Click. So I don't have any problem. If somebody calls you and you say, let me call my son real quick, he's a county attorney, go ahead, do that. Because if they hang up on you, it was a scam.
Dave, you were telling me about some guy on YouTube that actually, he creates what they call a honeypot, and he's trying to get the call center to kind of interface with him, and he even says, oh, you want to take control of my computer? Sure, go right ahead. Who was that guy?
Well, I heard that same story when I was standing next to you.
Okay. Where's Renee? Was it you?
I believe Renee was talking about that.
So anyways, he lets them take control of the computer. And then meanwhile, he's going into their computer system and deleting everything out. I got a question back here, guys.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. I understand why the emphasis here is on prevention, because that's what we can do. And I understand that it's very difficult to catch these horrible people and hold them to account, because it is. And yet it's hard for me to believe that there's nothing that can be done at that level. Isn't there some way of catching these people and holding them accountable and putting them out of business, maybe with international treaties or something? What should we work on? Or are we just all doomed to let these people run rampant over us and there's nothing we can do?
We're all doomed.
He said we're all doomed.
The biggest problem that we have is when I'm trying to make a case against somebody, I have to identify a person and present evidence to Chuck that shows that they committed a crime, and I have to be able to positively identify that person. Now, when you're dealing with somebody who's communicating you guys through the internet or through email or through a text number or something like that, they can be whoever they want to be. The phone numbers that they're using are generally like a voice over IP phone number, which means it's something they sign up for through Text Now or some of these texting apps. They're just throwaway numbers. People can also communicate you through these track phone numbers. They give you a track phone, and then if I do a subpoena on the phone number, Verizon comes back and says, that's a track phone. We don't keep customer account information because it's strictly a cash thing. Same thing with email addresses. When somebody emailed purporting to be Chuck and wanted his account put into this green dot, they gave it to me, and I emailed the account back, and I just said, hey, Chuck, it's Andrew with Brown County, just confirming, you want this put into to a different account. And then I said, do you got a phone number in case I got any questions? And then I went down and I deleted my signature that said Brown County Sheriff's Office Investigator because I wanted to get some info from the guy. Sure, and he responded and he says, yep, that's great. He verified the account number, and the phone number he gave me was the general number to the Brown County Attorney's Office. So I eventually ended up doing a subpoena, I think, on that Gmail address, and the only thing that's valuable with that is the IP addresses. The IP addresses are kind of the address that the internet service providers use to figure out whose account is accessing the internet at a specific given date and time. And we can do that with email addresses. That can get you back to the internet service provider. Then we provide a subpoena to the internet service provider, say on this date and time, this IP address, who was using this. They may get back to me with an account that may put me, it could be an apartment complex, it could be a library. There's just so many ways that you can that you can hide yourself. And it's frustrating. So yes, we're doomed. I would like everybody to start just dealing in silver and gold. That'd be awesome.
I would just add that they can get, a lot of these scams can get very complex. Just one that just happened this last year, we had a guy that unfortunately fell victim to, actually no, I get it mixed up because there's so many. A woman that was sending a lot of money to a person down in Iowa. And a lot of people that that fall victim to these, they'll say, well, I sent the money to someone within the United States, and we'll do our due diligence, just like Andrew said, and we'll track that money down. And oftentimes what those people will be is what we call in law enforcement our mules. So they're actually people that are also involved in a scam. And the one lady that she sent money, she gave me all the information that she sent the money to. And then I, in turn, will contact those law enforcement agencies and make contact with those people. And oftentimes we'll find that, again, they're very deep into scams. And the one particular for this one, the guy was in for $250,000 and had taken a second mortgage out on his house. And then the feds got involved with that one, and that one was also linked to out of country. So basically, a lot of times how these will happen is you'll be asked to send money to someone in state, they in turn send money to another person, and then eventually it goes overseas. And that's just the scammer putting distance between their victims and themselves.
I know Andrew kind of joked a little bit about it, but that's the reality. The biggest thing you can do is communicate with each other. Having seminars like this are great. If the banks get involved. Education is the biggest method of prevention. If you cut them off at the source, it will stop. I mean, as long as there's a source for these scammers to go to and get money, they're going to keep doing it. So the only way to prevent that is to educate each other. Tell your friends, tell your family, because if you cut off the source, they will eventually go away, but unfortunately that's the reality. And they're going to keep coming up with new ways to...
In my community ed classes, my closing question is this. What did you learn today? What are you going to take away that you can use right now as you drive away and you get back home? What are you going to do, or what are you going to start doing? And I'm asking for people to volunteer what you took away today. I'll tell you one thing I heard over and over. You can't be too careful.
Just say no. Just say no.
Just say no. What else?
Take your time.
Take your time. Thank you, Jenny. Excellent. I'd never thought of that. You kind of get caught up in that emotion of, not that I've been scammed, but I can understand why somebody who's being pressured, come on, you got to get going. You would do it. I get that, especially if it sounds really, really good. What else? Chuck Beitlick, what did you learn today? Because this is important for me, to know that you learned something.
A person can get very complacent. I've never been scammed. Why should I go out and learn all this stuff that I'm finding out today? It is important for education and for prevention.
You can get complacent, right? Never been scammed, and yet something tickled in the back of his mind, and he said, I'm going to go to this thing. I want to know about what is going on with even if it's not me, my friends and neighbors, because I might, what we got here? We got 300 people doing, hopefully doing word of mouth when you leave here and talk to people around town.
I was just going to say, I had a couple of phone calls and stuff, and I know it's a scam. And the numbers, I brought it up to the police station, and I said, can you do something about this? They say, no, just disregard it. Why can't we do something with it?
So what, you see the phone number, right? Mine comes up, and sometimes it says scam, right? Do you guys get that? Mine does. And you can see the phone number. Sometimes it's Southern Minnesota, 507. Why can't we do anything with those? I think I know the answer, but I'll let you answer.
Unfortunately, a lot of, like we've talked about, a lot of these numbers can be spoofed. and they don't go anywhere. But I've also had numbers where they spoof an actual person. I've had that locally, and in fact, I was on the receiving end. Unfortunately, I had someone spoofed my number, and I had some irate guy call me and say, "Why are you trying to scam me out of money?" I was like, "Well, it wasn't me." So that happens as well. It's unfortunate that the technology is available where they can manipulate the numbers. Bottom line is we really can't track it. Like Andrew said, they use the text now numbers or the internet over protocol numbers, IP numbers. I mean, you could be in Singapore or Nigeria and get a local New Ulm number, and you wouldn't know the difference. It's just something that we can't stop. There's nothing really we can do about it.
There was a common one, earlier this year, there was a couple that went out, two of them that went out, and these happen all the time, but they actually used the New Ulm Police Department. They identified themselves as me, Dave Borkert, that's a chief of police. And they were talking about, like, if you don't do such and such, I'm gonna come out and arrest you. Well, when they contacted the police department, they're like, okay, Dave Borkert's gonna leave the office and arrest someone. So they...
That should be a big red flag right there.
Kind of kidding, but literally that was one. They were contacting. We threw it out on Facebook, on our local social media, just saying, just be aware of this scam. And then later on, a lot of people contacted. It's like, yeah, I've been contacted on that one. So that obviously wasn't me saying that we're going to come out and arrest you for such and such, but they were contacting locally, and they were just hitting that area. And then there was another one about 3 months after that identified themselves as Chief Deputy Jeremy Reed from the Sheriff's Office. Very similar, could have been the same user from that song, but all from overseas accounts, or likely from overseas account. To my knowledge, nobody got victimized, nobody actually lost money. But like I said, a lot of times people are kind of embarrassed about it. We may or may not know. If we know that there's money lost, we'll certainly try to follow up on it. And one thing that I think is important to bring up too is, I know whenever someone is, it's when they're relying on emotion, again, the fear, trying to get people to move fast, panicking, they rely on that heavily. Because again, if you take control, it's like, no, I'll contact you at my convenience. I'll look up the number myself. I'll verify some stuff. I'm going to vet it. I'm going to actually do my background here. Again, that alleviates probably 95 to 97% of the issues. The other thing that they rely on is, the emotion of I'm embarrassed. I can't believe this happened to me. So, we've seen it where very successful business people, one individual just recently on Minnesota Street runs a very successful business, got scammed out of some money. And when we were even reaching out to them saying, we're confident this is a sweetheart scam, what we refer to as a sweetheart scam, they had said, I know that's exactly what it looks like, but it's not. This is the real deal. I know, I appreciate you coming out and contacting us, but they were buying into that. And then we've had a situation where one of the individuals is basically a chief financial officer for a business that has a $180 million a year budget, annual budget. And very, very smart guy, very wise, but he got caught up in it. When he got home, he's tired, and a lot of things seemed like it added up, and he got caught up in it. And that's why I'm talking about, like, it's very common in our society where we're embarrassed because we got fooled, we got victimized. It does happen to absolutely anybody, old, young, every different type of income bracket, every type of business background. And again, like this guy that I talked to, this chief financial officer, the CFO, he goes, I'm concerned that my employer would know that I got caught up in this thing because I protect my company from this all the time. But again, I came home, I didn't have the same control measures. I should be following the same best practices, and it shouldn't have happened, in my opinion. And that's what he's sharing, but it did. So again, trying to trying to work as a community, I think is very effective. And again, thank you everyone for coming today. This turnout is wonderful. And thank you, Mark, for coordinating this. And a special thank you to the other presenters from the banking institutions, from Human Services, the Sheriff's Office, County Attorney, and my colleague, Investigator Mullenhoff. And a big thank you to St. Paul's Church for sponsoring this and giving us the venue.
Thank you, David. So here's another takeaway that I have. I'm not going to wait 11 years to do the next one. I think we got to do these annually, and that's what I've heard over and over and over from people in banking, from people in law enforcement. This topic cannot be presented too often. And I will help anyone with coordinating a workshop if they have a location in mind and a date in mind. I do want to, again, Dave, thank you for recognizing all of the presenters here today. A special thank you from me to each and every one of you. But I also want to thank New Ulm Cable Access TV, KNUJ, and the New Ulm Journal for all their help in creating awareness about this workshop. And thank you to all my good friends at the OWLS, the Organization of Wisconsin Lutheran Seniors. They're going to help me today with serving the meal. I don't know how to do the bread and fish miracle thing. I don't. I got Pastor Lynn here. Maybe he can do it for me. Here's what I've got. I need people to find other places to have lunch. I've got enough for 100 people. That's it. I'm sorry. I didn't know how many we would get. But thank you, everybody, for coming. And please, if you think you can be one of the 100, be one of the 100. Thank you.